Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. Our guest today is Dan Platta, and this is Smart Business Moves. Dan, how the heck are you?
Tom, if I was any better, man, I'd be twins. Actually, I don't. I say that because it sounds funny. I don't even understand it, but it
Don't know what
sounds
the heck
good.
that means, do we? But
No, I don't know what it means, but it sounds cool.
might have
So
to Google that one. Ask Chat GPT what that means and get a
yeah, chat would
real.
know. Chat would know. How
So
the
what you
heck you
got?
been? It's been a while since I've been on the show hanging out with you. I see
Oh, gee
Liz
whiz.
ditched you again. I think Liz is afraid of me. She ditched you again when I'm on the show.
Yeah, you're
But
right. Liz isn't here. Is yeah, she said, Dan's going to be there. I need to find something else to do. No, I'm just kidding. She has a live training event that she's doing in Phoenix, and she's like in transit. She spends a lot of time traveling, doing training and coaching, and
she's a busy
she's like,
gal. She's moving and grooving.
yeah, she's making it happen. That's how the magic how the magic is made. Um, wow. So, what you got on tap back there?
I got everything on tap back here. What are you thirsty for?
Yeah, what
I
you
got
got?
water in my mug right here, but I'm starting a new podcast.
Okay,
Which we'll get into all this stuff, but I'm starting a new podcast called Home Service Happy Hour that I'm starting tonight. Tonight will be the first recording, and
okay.
this will have to change from water to Bush Light or something,
Is
more
that a
up that.
requirement in order to participate in that? You have to be drinking something.
Um, Not for anybody but me. Like the
Okay,
guest doesn't need to. The guest is whatever they want to do. They can drink whatever they want. I had a Kurt Kempton on from Responsibid, and he's a milkshake connoisseur, so he was drinking milkshakes. And on my previous show, he was drinking milkshakes, and I put some brandy in mine. Mine was more like a brandy Alexander. So,
okay,
whatever floats your boat.
yeah, or whatever you want to, smoke or consume
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. It's we're all adults here, right?
Well, it's happy hour. It's happy hour. You
That's
can do that,
true.
and that's the late night happy hour, so it's even a little more loosey goosey. But
We work hard. We deserve
that's
that.
right. That's right.
So, what's been going on in your world? It has been a while, and I heard some rumors that some things have been shaken and baking, and there's some positive change
Yeah,
happening over your way.
we've been moving and grooving. So, for those that, well, I guess maybe I can do a little intro of myself. So for people that don't know who I am and what I do and what I'm all about, get caught up on the damn Platta saga, and then
Okay.
I'll kind of give some history and talk about what I'm up to now. So, and I met you in my foray into the home service world pretty early on. Like right when you were even starting to build Made Central, I think like we came down and took a look at it even.
Right.
That was like 2016, 2017. So for 5, 6 years, I had my head down running maid service businesses, running window cleaning companies. And by accident, that was at a company called Blue Skies, and I'm still partners in some businesses with that, with those folks. By accident, we started a pretty sweet bookkeeping business and a recruiting company that my boy Sean Day runs. And we started doing some marketing for some people, kind of like we built these skill sets for ourselves. At one point, we had 10 different companies we were running. And then I don't think we even realized that other people needed it. Just other people started saying, like, hey, Dan, how do you guys do the bookkeeping for this stuff? And I was like, well, I do because I like finance. I'm a weirdo. And then, of course, they're like, well, can you do mine? Because I hate it. And I was like, oh, I guess. So we built the bookkeeping business. We built a recruiting company. And then it started to grow up. And I realized I was the minority owner in it. I was trying to buy more shares over time. But effectively, I did the stupid thing where I made something that was too valuable for me to buy, Tom. I outgrew a business outside of my wherewithal. And I kind of realized I was the catalyst for me to realize this was really stupid too, because I was exploring some other partnerships that I wanted to pursue. And I like a couple times I had a CPA partnership I wanted to look at. I had a marketing partnership I wanted to look at it. And each time they were like, Dan, that'd be awesome to work with you. Except I'm getting the majority of these other people and I'm working with you, but I'm really in bed with them. And I'm just like, man, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that. If I were in your shoes, I'd be a little nervous about that too. Like, who am I really getting in business with? So I was
Right.
like, man, I need to, like, if this is going to be my thing, and it's my thing, I was like, I gotta own this thing, right? I gotta do it for me and my family, and I can't have a ton of partners in it. And the partners were, me coming in, and then this business was an accidental boom.
You're talking about the accounting, the bookkeeping business.
Yeah, I mean the bookkeeping and the recruiting both.
And the
Like
recruiting.
I wanted to add marketing to it, so we kind of had like the full admin package, and I wanted to bring the CPA services in specifically for the bookkeeping side of it, but I just couldn't find a good way to get it done. I tried to buy the business, but monetarily it just was too expensive. It didn't make any sense for me to buy the
You
business, and
did too
so
good a job of building it.
I did. I made it way too valuable. And so my business partners didn't want to give it up. And I said, hey, well, if that's the case, can you guys buy me out? Right. And they said, yep, we'll buy you out. We totally get it. Appreciate everything, and we'll exit you. So that was kind of what happened. So I'm no longer at Blue Skies. I'm still partners with them and have a great relationship working on other businesses that we're still affiliated in. But they let me kind of spin off to do my own thing. And so I started a new bookkeeping business called Best Damn Bookkeeping. Which I get asked now a lot of times. People are like, is it Best Dan Bookkeeping? And I'm like, sure. So I went and bought that domain too, because somebody's going to type in Best Damn Bookkeeping or Best Dan Bookkeeping. And so,
Okay.
whatever you want to call it, either works for me. I was on a show earlier today. I was joking the runner up name, which I actually like. I'm a goofball. I wanted the business to be, to make accounting not boring, because accounting's already boring enough. Hence Best Damn Bookkeeping, a little edgy. But the other name I was going with was bookkeeping. I was like, man, that's just fun. That's fun to say. It makes people laugh when I tell them. The downside was like the domain name kind of sucks. You're like, is it 3 B's?
How many B's is it? How do you spell that?
Yeah. And then frankly, like I had a couple clients at Blue Skies that had a stutter, and I was like, man, this is just funny until it's not. Like somebody, you're funny until you're an asshole, and at some point I would just be an asshole.
Somebody get their feelings hurt.
Yeah. And so maybe it's more of a tagline than a business name, but so I ended up with Best Damn Bookkeeping. So we're starting that, and the other thing that so that's pretty new. I think, Tom, I sent you the Calendly link. I don't even have a website. I don't have a logo. I don't have a website. I'm busier than I can handle already because people just know me for doing bookkeeping. So I'm still I'm off and running with that. And obviously, if you guys are watching and need bookkeeping nerdery help or CFO help, hit me up. We can drop my link in there. Always love helping home service companies with that stuff. And so that's going to be like my main jam. But then I really love our recruiting business, and Sean Day, who's been at that with me for a long time, he really like spearheads that. What we were missing, and part of the reason, what's up, Molly? That's Dan Bookkeeping. It's right up there, right in there. One thing we were missing with our recruiting business, and we realized it, and why I wanted to partner with a marketing company, is our recruiting is very much like a pay-per-click marketing company. We're doing digital ads, right? Trying to get as many applicants and candidates and filter them and convert them. It's just marketing. And so we were good at the job ad writing and the filtering, but we're not like pay-per-click experts. And so realizing that all these businesses out there, like obviously over the last 3 to 4 years, finding employees has been harder and harder and harder and harder. Okay, they need some help. People are used to paying somebody else to do their Google ads or their Facebook ads or whatever else the case is, but they weren't really used to hiring somebody else to help them with this on recruiting. But now recruiting's got more and more and more intense and complicated and harder. It
looks a lot like marketing if you really step back for, it's just a matter of you looking for customers or are you looking for cleaners? It's the same thing.
Yep, absolutely. So that was where I was like, man, we got to, the skill set between recruiting and marketing is so similar. Let's see if we can combine them, put them together. But also, if you're a home service business out there, I guarantee you have at least one of those problems. You might have both of them, but you for sure at least have not enough cleaners and too many clients, or not enough clients and too many cleaners. The chance that those are matched up and your capacity and demand is perfect is like the chance is about this big. And I guarantee you tomorrow it won't be, because somebody's going to call in. Somebody's going to be, have some shitty behaviors. You're going to need to fire them. you're going to get a bunch of phone calls, or the phone's going to dry up, or whatever the case is. And so recruiting is great, but not if your marketing sucks. And marketing's great, but not if your recruiting sucks. And so that was just the thing where I was like, man, we really need, if we're going to be the best in the world at helping people find employees, we need to be able to pair good marketing with it, so that it's not just we can help you with like driving one side of your car, but the other side of your car can't go anywhere. So what's the point? And so a guy that I had a really good relationship with, Michael Gregory at Click Call Sell, he builds websites, pay-per-click marketing. We've used him for a long time in our Blue Sky Services cleaning companies, and he's been awesome. And so he and I had looked at partnering everything together, and he and I ended up buying the Blue Skies Recruiting, also known now as Hire Lead Chill. We bought that from Blue Skies. So we're like that happened in the last week here. So we're just getting the bank account set up and the payroll set up, and holy shit, Tom, I forgot how much of a pain in the ass it is starting new businesses, even when you buy an existing one.
It's a momentary slice in time though, and you'll power through that, and then you'll start having the real fun.
Yeah.
I have a question here. Christy wants to know, can you help with hiring contractors as well?
Yep, we sure do. And actually that ends up being even a little bit easier because you have a little more flexibility in it. Obviously you have contractor law that comes into play, but yeah, it's the process is very similar. So,
but you're right. You know, we've talked about this for years, that you either have too many customers and not enough cleaning professionals, or too many cleaning professionals and not enough customers. And, you know, it's either like this or it's like this. And the only time that it's like this is when it's shifting in the other direction. You know, you blink,
they pass each other like, oh shit, there goes a bunch of employees, or here comes a bunch of clients.
And
there's an analogy, and I don't know if I've given this analogy before, and if I have, it's been long enough since I gave it, so I'm gonna give it again.
We won't remember.
Yeah. So we'll just act like it's brand new if I've already done it before. But the way I view it, you've got a vehicle, right, with tires on the right side, tires on the left side. Now, most of the time when we're driving a vehicle like today, you know, it's front wheel drive or whatever the case is, and then the steering wheel turns both sets of vehicles. The vehicle that we drive in our business is made a little bit differently, though. We're in the vehicle, and all of our employees and all of our customers are in the vehicle too, or I guess maybe they're on the outside of it. But the right side of your vehicle is your marketing. And those tires work independently of the left side of your vehicle, which is your recruiting. So your marketing is your demand, and it's got its own gas tank and its own gas pedal. What it doesn't have is a steering wheel. Okay. Like it can go forward and backward. And the only way to turn the car is to speed up one side or the other side more or less. So marketing has its gas tank. You put money in there to run ads. And as the ads convert, that side of the car speeds up faster. Left side of your car is your capacity. It's your recruiting. You can put some more money into there, more effort into there, get that side of the car going. And if you're driving this car perfectly, it goes straight, right? Your marketing and your recruiting is happening at the same time. So literally every time you get another 15 to 20 clients, you have a magical A-player employee that shows up and never quits or never turns over on you. And this car just keeps going perfectly down the road, and you run the best recurring home service, home cleaning business in the world.
I see where you're going with this, though. If you're out of balance, you're just going in circles.
Yeah. And a lot of times people push that marketing pedal down and won't take their foot off the gas, right? Because you don't want to give up the sales steam in the left side of their car. The tires are bald and their leadership sucks, right? And employees keep turning over. And so the car just goes, right? Because the right side of the car keeps moving. The left side of the car is not going anywhere. And the same thing can happen, right? If you hire too many people and you can't give them enough work to do, all that happens is the left side of the car starts going really fast, and then 3 cleaners quit because they don't have enough hours. And then, boom, right, that side of the car jerks back and you end up spinning out. And so the home cleaning businesses that are the most successful are the ones that balance capacity and demand the best. And it's not necessarily now some can go really fast and do that, right? I've heard of people growing multi-million-dollar home cleaning companies in like a couple of years. I was never that good at growing it that fast and keeping capacity and demand in check that whole way. But the ones that are the best at it can market really fast and can recruit really fast and at the same speed. So the car keeps going straight. When the speed starts to get off, if you're going fast, like you just get more off course, right? And so one of the goofy things that I see over and over again is people are generally really willing to put gas in the marketing tank, and they're generally unwilling to put gas in the recruiting tank. They'll spend thousands of dollars a month on Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever, marketing and flyers and this and that, but spending $500 a month on Indeed ads like scares them.
Right.
And part of it's just we're not used to having to do that. I think we're starting to get more used to having to do that over the last couple of years, but historically we didn't have to do that. And the math is the finance nerd, the mathematical conundrum to me, and I've made this mistake too. So I'm not saying I'm immune to it. A client is worth $3,000 to $4,000 a year on average. A home cleaner is worth $60,000 to $100,000 a year, depending on how fast they are and what your business model is.
Yep. So
we're sitting here spending thousands of bucks a month on marketing for something that's worth a few grand, and then we like skimp out on the thing that makes us, somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 a year in revenue. Now, obviously, it's not apples and apples. That's such a simplification, but we do tend to shortchange ourselves on finding the best players. It's easier to complain about shitty employees and just go get the customers that are coming in the door than it is to solve the employee thing, right? So we tend to like not necessarily solve it. We just like to stew in our own demise of, oh, nobody wants to work anymore, which, we can say that, but that definitely doesn't solve our employee problem. Oh, nobody's reliable anymore. Well, maybe your culture just sucks and you haven't invested in that. And so like the left side of our car, that capacity side of our car tends to get like left out a little bit. But man, if people are good at that, they crush it.
Yeah. And the other part of that, I guess, is the conversion process. You certainly aren't doing yourself any favors if you're, only have 3 candidates to talk to and you're picking between 3 bad alternatives in terms of, your next hire. But you need to have a process in place if you're going to be spending more on the advertising. Presumably, you're going to be getting more candidates. Presumably, some of them are going to be really great, but kind of sifting through all of that and finding the right candidates. Do you help with that as well?
Yeah, a couple of things that we do on Hire Lead Chill. And actually, we're revamping this a little bit. I'm super pumped for some new automations. And again, this is like stuff coming out of our new partnership that I'm really excited about because the Michael who we're bringing in is really good at creating the automations. People can basically like sign up to use our funnel. So applicants come in, they get scored, they get vetted, and they basically end up at your doorstep like pre-vetted. And so it creates an efficient process where if you go get 100 applicants, you don't need to look at 100 applications, right? The system can do a lot of the weeding out for you. And I think that's super important because the amount of applicants we need to find one good employee is significant. Usually it's somewhere between 50 and 100 applications to find a good employee. And if you're the one looking at 50 to 100 applications, A, you're going to be miserable. And B, you're probably going to get bored and not actually do the due diligence and not pick the best one.
Right.
I find the same thing in interviewing. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character. I am a perpetual optimist, so I do tend to think everybody's going to be awesome. And I've hired so many shitty people, Tom. I've hired a lot of great people, but I've hired at least as many shitty people because I'm just like, oh, everybody's awesome. They're going to be so good here. And so part of having a good process can protect you from yourself in that case, where you're either going to not be critical enough or you're going to be too critical. People are great at bullshitting their way through interviews. Actually, like one of the best home cleaners I ever hired was maybe the worst interview I ever had. And I totally just dumpster hired her. I just needed a body with a pulse. And I was like, Erica, you're here and I need somebody tomorrow. And you said you can work tomorrow. And so you're hired. Can
you start today? Like right now? Can you start?
Yeah. She was awful. She was awful in the interview. And she ended up being a phenomenal home cleaner for me. And I've had other people that were so good at interviewing and just sucked. And so interviewing skill has nothing to do with being a good cleaner, being a good office manager. Oh, that's my Aunt Sally. What's up, Sal?
So IA, is that different than AI?
I don't know. I think maybe Sally just got it backwards. Maybe she started happy hour a little too early.
She hit the tap early.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Which, hey, get me one, Sal. Um, but so one of the things that we found, we can do a bunch of like weeding out early. What's up, Michael Gregory in the house? Shout out, Michael. That's my new business partner in Higher Lead Chill right there. One of the things that we do is, we help get a bunch of applicants, and that's doing labor market research. That's doing keyword research. The job you post on Indeed has to be way different than the job you post on ZipRecruiter or Facebook. Like those algorithms are different. So figuring out what those algorithms are looking for is part of what Higher Lead Chill would do. Getting the right questions to expedite getting somebody through that funnel and getting them to a business owner is really important. And then making it easy for the business owner to like access that data and interview. Now, one thing that this can go like two different ways here, and I'll tell you the way I like to do it. It depends on the role you're hiring for, but especially for hiring technicians, right? It's like a speed game. It's a quantity. I won't say quantity over quality, but it's definitely like a focus on quantity. You just got to get as many applications as you can, and you got to get through as many as you can as fast as possible. The more you get, the way better chance you have of hiring somebody good. If you're trying to hire a general manager, obviously it's quality over quantity then, right? Like you really need to find the right person, and you're almost doing more like
that's important. I mean, you don't want to make a bad hire, but the cost of making a bad hire in a leveraged position like a manager, you could pay for that for months and months.
Yeah, I mean that can erode your business massively, right? So when we look at hiring technicians or even like office managers are a pretty common role that we end up helping people hire. A lot of what I have found is to take us as the business owner out of it a little bit. Like we insert ourselves at the beginning as like the culture person and the you rah rah, who like the hype man, if you will. But I like to exclude myself from the decision making. Again, I'm the optimist, right? So I'm gonna freaking hire everybody that shows up. But one of the ways that we have found that this works, and we did this in our Minneapolis window cleaning business first, and we did it, I won't say by accident, but out of necessity. We were getting enough applicants that we were having like 20 people that wanted to interview. And we all know you get 20 interviews, you're going to actually have 5 of them, right? Maybe 10 of them. So that sucks, having all the no-shows. And that's frustrating and debilitating and a huge waste of your time. And it's just a ton to get through. And we were hiring 10 technicians at a time sometimes here. So we started doing group interviews. And again, we did it out of necessity. And then we realized how much better we did by doing group interviews. And I'll talk a little bit about our process because I think there's some like secret sauce to how to do a group interview well and get the right result. There's a few reasons to do group interviews though, especially with technicians or office people. I wouldn't do them for your general managers. And
so let's back up just a second. How does a group interview work? Do you just invite a whole bunch of people to your office at the same time?
Yeah. So this is our process. Tweak it however you want, but I'll kind of go like step, A through Z here. So we don't tell them it's going to be a group interview. We just say, hey, 4:00 Tuesdays and Thursdays, let us know what works for you. Maybe they can read between the lines and tell that that's going to be a group interview, but we have a couple open standing spots. So the beauty of that is it saves us a shitload of time, right? Instead of a bunch of interviews all week long, it's this time or it's that time. Here's when we do interviews. And if we're trying to bring in a lot of people, maybe we'll do one every day at 4 or 5 o'clock. Let's see. Dan is asking about.
Denise wants to know about using Zoom for group interviews.
I don't like it because I'll get into why I don't like it when I talk about why I do like doing in-person group interviews.
Okay.
Not to say it won't work, but there's some drawbacks to it for sure that I think are the main benefit of doing a group interview. So we don't really tell them it's going to be a group interview. We're trying to catch them off guard a little bit and to see how they react, because chances are if they're going to work for you, they're going to get caught off guard going in somebody's home and, grandma's walking through naked or, the house is a freaking hoarder's house, right? We know in our world they're going to get caught off guard. it's okay to catch them off guard a little bit, and they're going to have to be able to read and react to situations. That's going to be a requirement of being a home cleaner.
So you give them a couple of times, and they're not even committed. Do you have them commit to show up at a particular time?
Yep. We ask them to confirm a time. Let us know, is it this day? Is it that day? Is it this time? Is it that time? But we give them the options instead of just like an open book.
So if they say I'm coming on Tuesday, then if they don't show up on Tuesday, I assume they're no longer a candidate.
Yep, they're out. Unless they reach out with a great reason as to, hey, I can't make it today. Can I come back Thursday during the next time slot or whatever the case is? Like, obviously, if they communicate well, we can work with that. We know people have lives, but if they don't communicate, they're out. Not to say we won't retarget them, right? And that's why I think having a CRM that's housing all your application information is super important. Just because they didn't show up to your interview doesn't mean they're a shitty person. There's a good chance they applied to 30 jobs in 2 seconds, right? And so by the time your interview happened, they might already be working somewhere. That doesn't mean they suck. They applied to 30 jobs. They're not going to get back to the other 29 jobs to tell them they're not showing up to their interview, right? The world happens too fast. And we see that. There's all the no-shows and the non-communication stuff. I'm not going to write somebody off just because they didn't show up or just because they didn't communicate. Now, the system will keep weeding them out every time they don't, but I'm not going to totally like say, never talk to that person again. There's no harm in me just assuming they got a job somewhere else. I wasn't fast enough, right? Because a lot of the times people no-show us or don't communicate with us. It's because we sucked, right? It's not necessarily because they sucked. We didn't have the best, sexiest opportunity for them. They took a different opportunity. We were either too slow. We weren't paying enough. Our office smelled funny. It was dirty, whatever it was. We weren't the sexiest gal at the bar, so we didn't get the date. So we do the group interview. We invite them to one of those time slots. We have them confirm it. When they come in, and Sean talks about this a lot, going back to the value of this person. Our clients are worth a few $1,000. Our home cleaners are worth up to $100,000 or maybe even more if you're charging a lot. This is the biggest sale. This is the biggest customer you're going to have. It's your biggest sale. So many of us like rush people through an interview and we don't give them the time of day and we kind of treat them like livestock until they're an employee of ours, and then we try to love on them later. But when they come in for that group interview, it's, can I get you some water? If it was me, I'd be like, can I get you a beer? But we try to treat them like it's the biggest sale of our lives, right? What can we do for them? How can we make them comfortable? It's our opportunity to impress them. We don't bring them to an interview to get them to impress us.
How many people would you invite to a group interview?
We would invite like 20, knowing that only 5 or 10 are going to show up.
Wow.
So you don't want too many that you like have no space for them, right? Because then it's super uncomfortable.
So about one in 4 show up.
I'd say between 1 and 2 and 1 and 4, and it kind of fluctuates in there. And it might be different. Some of that depends on how hard you vet them in advance. In our Minneapolis location, we don't even vet them in advance. It's just we invite them, and that's about the show up rate, and we get everything we need from doing the group interview. So we don't even
show up. That's saying something about you because you're already better than 75% of the people who applied.
Yeah, and generally, it's like we can teach anybody to do the job that we have. So interviewing them doesn't tell us if they're going to be a better cleaner, right? Which is why I said earlier, it's like I've hired terrible, great people that interviewed terribly and hired terrible people that interviewed greatly. The interview doesn't tell us crap about are they going to be a good employee of ours or not. It just tells us, are they good at interviewing, which is not a skill set that my cleaners need. So what I do need to know is like, can they show up? Went to Wendy's comment. No, we don't tell them it's a group interview ahead of time. They can kind of
want them to be surprised.
Yeah, we want to catch them off guard.
Do you think if you told them you would have less than 25% of the people showing up?
I don't know. We'd have to like A/B test it to get some data on it. I don't know.
Yeah, because it'd be like, well, what are the chances of me getting it if all these other people are going to be showing up? Why am I even bothering?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good question. I never thought about it. But so we get them in again. It's like, it's our biggest sale, right? This is the most important piece of our business. This is the thing that our customer is going to experience is sitting right here, and they're going to generate $100,000 a year for us. So we treat it like that. Like we're trying to make it as comfortable for them. food, snacks, drinks, whatever. We want them to enjoy themselves. But when they get there, they're going to realize like, oh, I'm not the only one. Now they could walk out and leave, right? But chances are they're probably going to be like, oh, I better, sit up a little straighter. Or they're going to think like, oh man, I wore like these torn ass jeans and this person's sitting over here in like a suit coat or whatever.
Looking around, it's like, look at these other people. There's no way they're going to hire me.
Yeah. So like the competitive juices start flowing a little bit. And now they're going to try to impress you from that rather than impress you with answering your crappy interview questions, which aren't going to tell you if they're a better cleaner or not.
So 5 people show up. Do you like have them all in the room at the same time, or do you talk to them one at a time? How does that work?
So we'll have them all in the room at once. And I like the first move for me is to like make them feel comfortable and then for them to let their guard down. And I do that by saying something along the lines of like, hey, if you're here, I already like you, right? You've done everything you need to do to impress me. And now, like any relationship, this is a two-way street. And what's actually more important than me being impressed with you is you being impressed with me. As far as I'm concerned, if you want this job and you're going to be great at it and you're going to love it, I'm probably going to hire you today. But that's not important. What's way more important than me liking you is that you're going to love this job. Because if you love this job, there's a really good chance I'm going to love you. If you are not going to love this job, you and I are going to be miserable and it's not going to work. So the point of this interview is not for you to impress me. It's for me, maybe impress you, but to make sure you're going to love it here. If you're going to love it here, there's a really good chance you're going to show up every day. There's a really good chance you're going to work hard and make a lot of money. If you're not going to love it here, just don't take the job. Like, nobody's holding a gun to your head. You don't have to take this job. I don't want you to take this job if you're not going to love it here. The next 30 minutes to an hour is me giving you everything you need to know if you're going to love it here. And then you get to decide if you want this job. So I try to let their guard down to almost make them feel like they've already got the job.
Okay. So that's almost a head fake. They don't, but you are just, you're selling. You're selling at that point. This is just like,
yeah, it's your biggest sale.
Customer.
It's your biggest sale. And the fact of the matter is like, you probably are going to hire them if they want the job, right? Like they already, generally you've scored them. And so you only invited them if they scored good. Like I said, in Minneapolis, we don't even score them because we're just like, just bring them in. We'll know enough from doing the group interview. But they showed up. If they were interested enough from your job ad, again, your job ad has to be good or nobody's going to show up. If your job ad says
one-on-one discussion or everything is done in this group
everything is done in the group setting because we kind of want to see how they interact. Like that's what's actually going to tell us if they're interested in the job.
Are you asking them questions like you would normally ask on an interview?
Nope. We ask them 0 questions. And I think that's part of the secret sauce. We just watch them. You can tell if they're interested. And generally, again, we can teach anybody to do this job. There's no interview question we can ask them that's going to tell us, are they going to be good at cleaning? What's going to tell us if they're going to be good at cleaning is, are they interested? Are they sitting forward? Are they giving you their attention? Are they interacting with you? What's Sean have to say? Application for screening behaviors, interview match your culture and core values. Yeah, baby. So I think what's really important is we get their guard down to make them feel like they've already got it. That way, as they're interacting with us, they're just being their true selves. And their nonverbals will tell you everything about whether they actually want your job or not. That's what you're reading. I know a guy that does this, and he literally plants somebody in the room to watch everybody else's nonverbals. And so there's a plant in there. And
as an interviewee, as a candidate?
Yep. They'll be sitting there acting like an interviewee, and they'll be taking notes on what everybody else is doing. Because if you start talking about your core values and somebody's sitting there with their arms crossed, leaning back, you're not going to hire them. They don't want to work for you. They're just looking for a paycheck, right? They're not interested in what you're all about. So
does this plant like have a script? Are they supposed to act like they're a good candidate? Are they supposed to act like they're a bad candidate? Did they show up?
I don't know. I've never used a plant yet. I've never used
the torn up jeans and the
t-shirt. Make it whatever you want. Make it whatever you want. I've never used one. I just know that this is something one of my buddies does. And he says he gets good info from it because nobody knows that they're sitting there like taking notes on the entire room. Like they got a clipboard, they're taking notes.
Denise has another question here. How about having them read about your company, or do you suggest talking to them?
I mean, I think like they'll come with their questions, right? And so that's another way you can tell who's actually interested in working for you is, are they going to interact with you? Are they going to speak up? So when we go through our, and I call it like a sales presentation, again, we're selling them on working for us. We need to make sure they're going to love it here. So the first thing that we do is we start telling stories. Stories sell. We're not going to like read bullet points and show a bunch of slides. We're going to start telling stories. The first story we tell is how we got started. Here's our origin story. Here's what we're all about. Here's why we're passionate about this. And we weave that into our core values. Core values are super important because that's why somebody's going to stay. And the whole point of this is to hire people that are going to stay, right? If they showed up, you probably listed how much you pay or how you pay in your job ad. And if you didn't, you're probably missing out. But your job ad is the sexy thing that you need. You need a great job ad to get them to show up. Then once they show up, you need a great culture to get them to stay and want to work for you. And so the story about how you got started, why you're passionate about this, the story about how your core values came about and why you're passionate about those, that's usually where you can kind of tell who's interested and who's not. If you start talking about how you got started and somebody clearly is checked out, like, you know everything you need. They don't give a shit about your business, right? And you don't want to hire somebody that doesn't give a shit about your business. Sean and I actually like revamped our core values when we were at Blue Skies. And so every core value like had a story. I mean, there was an event that happened that made it so that became a core value. I met Tony, like our plow was our acronym for plow horses. And our core values were positive attitude, loyalty, ownership, and accountability. And we serve the positive attitude was because we had to fire Tony. He was just a piece of shit. He was a great technician. He could clean windows like the Dickens. He showed up early every day. It was like hard to fire him. And then we just realized he was an asshole. He had the worst attitude by the end of the day. Everything was negative. So we said, like, we need a reason to fire people like that. Positive attitude. And we literally would tell this, like, literally the event that caused me to fire him was he broke a freaking screen over his leg at a customer's house. He was having trouble with their screens. He took the screen out of the window, broke it over his leg, threw it in the woods. And that customer was a maid service client of ours, was a window cleaning client, was a holiday light client. And she, thank God she had my cell number. She called me and she's like, Dan, can you tell your technician to leave? Like, and can send somebody else out here? I was like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. But clearly we needed to fire this guy and I didn't have a reason to do it. So I tell that story. And when you tell a story, people want to tell a story back to you. Or they're like nodding their head because they're like, oh my God, like I worked with this guy that was a total piece of shit. And he was negative about everything, right? And so when you're telling the stories, you're looking for the person that's nodding their head, for the person that wants to tell you a story back. That's the person that's like soaking up what you're feeding them, right? That's the person that wants to bleed your blood and do the thing with you because they believe in what you're saying. So when you're telling these stories, people that are interested in what you have to sell want to tell you a story back. And that's what you're looking for. Are they sitting forward? Are they nodding their head? Are they trying to communicate with you or say like, oh my God, I worked with a guy like that? Because they're going to, now I'm not saying this is going to be bulletproof and you're never going to hire somebody that sucks and you're never going to miss out on somebody that would be good. But you're finding out the people that believe what you believe. And those are the most likely people to love working for you and are going to stick around the longest because they love working for you. And that's what you're trying to find, right? You can train anybody to clean a house, anybody. So you're just trying to find the people that are going to stick around the longest. And if they love working for you, they're going to clean houses better. It's just as simple as that. So we go through the core values. Then we start getting into more of the nuts and bolts of stuff. Here's what a shitty day looks like, right? You had 3 houses on your schedule. The first one you showed up at, and then the kids were sick. And so they sent you home and then you drove out of your way. And here's how we deal with some of that stuff. And then the next house was super dirty. And that one took you even longer. And they wouldn't let you come until 10 o'clock. So you had to waste some time and go get a cup of coffee. And we're not paying you unless you're cleaning. So now you're like wasting time there. And then the last house, whatever the case is, we thought we could get you some help, but we can't because somebody else's day got extra long and now you're out cleaning until 6 o'clock. It's going to happen. It's a shitty day. The next day, you clean 4 houses and you're done by 2 o'clock and you made a shitload of money. So you had a great day. Next day might be another crappy one. Can you live with that shitty day? Like, I guarantee you it's going to happen. It might even happen in your first week here. It Might happen on your first day here. We don't get to choose where our customers live. We try to route them as efficiently as possible. We don't get to choose what time of day they want us. We try to route them as efficiently as possible, but you're going to have a crappy day and then you're going to have a good day. And can you handle the ups and downs of that? Or do you need an 8 to 5 schedule? Because we go to people's homes and we don't know exactly what we're going to get when we get there. And if you need an 8 to 5 schedule, you're not going to love this job. So don't take this job. I don't want you to take this job because you're going to hate it. So if you're flexible and you can roll with the punches, you might love this job. Stick around. Like, hear what else I have to say. So I want to like paint the negative, right? We can't hire them if they're not okay with that. And then we want to get to the positive, right? Our clients freaking love us. We change their lives. You know, you might get a $200 Christmas tip just because like you're their person, right? And so you get to build relationships with your clients. You get paid for doing harder work, and the more work you do, the more you get paid, unlike an hourly job where maybe you just get paid to sit around and do nothing. So now we like open up our CRM. We might pop open Made Central, show them what a day in the life looks like. Here's what she cleaned yesterday. Here's what he was out doing yesterday. Here's how our pay structure works and how you make more money, and you get to decide, right? If assuming you're paying commission. If you're not, you should think about it. We get to like show them how the inner workings of the company work, and we can just throw it right up on the screen. We're presenting, right? So we go through the good, the bad, the ugly, how they get paid, kind of a day in the life. We get into, if you're going to stick around and get hired, here's what training looks like. Here's how we get you through that. And then we open it up for questions, right? And again, the people that are interested in what you're selling are going to interact. They're going to ask more questions. They're going to be way more engaged.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, you're watching body language, and you're watching, you're listening for what questions are being asked, and all of that is how the competition works. And if you're looking to hire, one person out of those 5, whoever asked the best questions and came across with the best body language, they win.
I mean, Samantha's question is about introverts, right? Introverts probably aren't going to ask you a lot of questions back. They're gonna try to ask them in private. That's cool. Their body language. I mean, if somebody's doing this, I don't care if they're introverted and extroverted. They're not interested in what you're selling, right? Yeah. Introverts don't have a resting bitch face. Introverts just maybe are less vocal, but they would still be sitting forward, interested in what you're saying. So you're reading the nonverbals. You're an extrovert that's disinterested.
They're sitting there on their phone, watching TikTok videos.
Yeah. And even an extrovert that's disinterested isn't going to ask questions. An extrovert that's interested is just going to dominate the questions, right? Now, you might, based on them being extroverts, you might decide not to hire them if you're like, wow, we've all had this employee that you're like, yeah, they're a great cleaner, but they might start talking politics and religion to that customer the minute they walk into the house, right? We had a sales guy like that in our window cleaning business. He's so good at sales, but we literally had to subcontract him. We're like, Dave, you can't be an employee of this business anymore. You can go sell high rise. But like, he eroded employee relationships, and some customers loved him, but some customers hated him because he had no filter. He just, and so like an extrovert like him, like he's so good at what he does, but he might not be the right home cleaner. He was great commercial sales for us, but wasn't a good window cleaner for us for various reasons. So, you might get that from an extrovert that speaks up. That's a thing that you're looking for, right? If you can't send them into somebody's house without having to worry about the shit they're going to say to the customer. But by all means, like the first time you do this, you're not going to have it all figured out, right? Like the more you do these group interviews, you're going to know what to look for. That's a match for you, right? You're reading their nonverbals, you're reading how they're interacting. And what we found, and again, it's not as much about you picking them. I want to like keep getting back to that, is we think we're the ones that need to pick them. We need them to pick us. That's why there's so many no-shows. That's why we have a hard time retaining people, is we're not the sexiest one.
There's always a segment of the market out there, though, that, I just need a paycheck. When's payday? And, they're thinking maybe they're only planning for working 3 days. I don't know. But it's like, this will be the 6th job I've had in the last, month and a half, but I just
Yep.
need some money. And if you hire me, I will be there, but I'm not going to be here very long. You know the type I'm talking about. They will
Yep.
they will pick you, but they are far from committed. They're
Yep.
just looking for a check.
Yep. And generally that person will look disinterested during the interview, right? Like they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this guy's spewing core values at me. Like I just want a damn paycheck, right? Like you'll
Yeah.
read their face. And again, you're gonna get it wrong, but you're gonna get it wrong less than you would if you're just interviewing them and asking them questions about the same questions you asked the last person that came in. Um, the thing that we found that was really interesting to me is when I would do one-on-one interviews, like, yeah, I could hire enough people. A, it wasted a bunch of my time waiting for people that didn't show up. B, I tried to hire everybody that showed up because I'm the eternal optimist. And there are a few people that I didn't offer jobs to, but I have like a hard time not hiring somebody in a one-on-one interview. Like I see the best in everybody. But what would eventually happen is I would offer a job to somebody that was great. And I knew they were great. And I got the confirmation that they would have been great because they were the person that when they turned me down, they had enough decency to actually reach out and say, hey, Dan, I got another job offer and I think I'm going to take that. Right? Most people that suck just aren't going to get back to you. The ones that you know are really good get back to you and tell you they're not going to take your job. And that was
Yeah.
the revelation to us, is like, we're missing out on the best people. It's not that, yeah, like we're hiring some duds because they fool us in an interview. What's worse is that we're not getting A players. They're choosing something else. We don't have the sexiest proposition here. That's the problem. And so that's where I said it's like you need them to choose you. It can't be you interviewing them and you expecting them to impress you. They have any
So,
job they want out there.
so
They
how
applied to 30
how does
jobs in 2
that
seconds.
how does that work? Like towards how long does this whole process take?
I mean, it depends on the interaction from them, right? So it might take a half hour, it might take 45
Yeah.
minutes, it might take an hour if you got a bunch of people that showed up
So
and they're asking a bunch of questions.
so at the
I,
end of the half hour, whatever it is, do you just ask people to raise their hand who wants a job, or how do you
no,
know
we
who's
don't, especially with the introverts. That would make them so uncomfortable, right? As they like don't want to have that pick and choose. So we basically say, that's it. Grab a water on your way out the door, grab another snack. I don't, I'm not going to be like, you suck, you're cool. I'm not going to do that right here and right now. And I don't expect you can come up to me if you've got a question that's more private, come up to me afterwards, ask me the question, or you've got my number. Go out to your car, shoot me a text, let us know if you're interested in the job or not. If you're going to love it, like only text me if you're going to love it here. If one out of these 10 things you're not going to love, don't bother texting me. I only want you if you're going to love it here. That's the only way it's going to work. So only text me if you're going to love it here. Get out to your car, let me know. And if we think it's a good fit, we'll start working on a start date. And so you kind of take the pressure off. Nobody needs to like raise their hand right and then, but you give them an opportunity to ask private questions. You give them an opportunity to like opt in once they get out to their car. And you've got your notes, right, of who was good and who you want and who you don't want. And then you just start working on a hire date. The thing that was interesting to me is, again, when I did one-on-one interviews, we didn't get all the people we wanted. We lost people that we thought would be really good. They didn't end up working for us. When we do it this way, A, we have a really sexy job ad to try to make sure people show up. But B, this interview to them is way more appealing than if they come on to an uncomfortable one-on-one situation. Like when they leave this interview, they're like, holy shit, they didn't ask me a single question. They wined and dined me the whole time. And they told me all the reasons that I'm going to love it here. And they told me not to pick this job if I'm not going to love it here. Like they actually care about if I'm going to like working here versus am I going to make them more money? Right? Because that's the employee's worst nightmare, is that they're going to work for somebody who only wants them to go make them money. Right? So when you can frame it in a way that I want to make sure you're going to love it here, and you're the one interviewing this way and your competitors aren't, and all the other job offers that they got were not done this way, you're the memorable one. You're the sexiest gal at the bar. You're getting the date. And that's what we found, is when there was somebody that we wanted in that room, we got them almost every time. Versus when we did one-on-one interviews, we didn't get all the people we wanted. And I think that was the biggest like aha to us is like, holy shit. Like if there's a person sitting in that room that we want, we're going to get them almost every damn time.
Yeah. And the whole idea of like planting somebody in there, if you plant somebody that's a really strong candidate, and if they act like it, they're really like interested in the job, you might be able to create some FOMO with the other people. And it's like, well, this person here is awesome. And if they think this is a great job, I trust their judgment more than my own. This does sound like a great job. I want this job too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
It is fun watching the interaction.
Sounds a lot more fun than your typical interview, which oftentimes feels like an interrogation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like I said, my experience with interviewing, and I think I'm just a shitty interviewer, but I can't really tell when people are feeding me a bunch of shit versus if they're really sincere. And I've had it both ways and been like, I don't know. So the Zoom interview. My worry would be that you don't get the full nonverbals because it's hard for people when it's not face-to-face to keep their attention span, right? I mean, like I've been on a Zoom call for an hour before. You guys have been watching this for up to 50 minutes, and you've probably checked out and done other stuff while you were listening to us talk. So it's hard to read their nonverbals. It's hard to like see how they interact. I'm not saying don't try it. You might do it and it might be super efficient for you and work really well. For me, I mean, I am extroverted, so I like that personal interaction. So it would be easier for me to do it in person. I'm not saying
Sean's got a very important question here, Dan. Do you say shit in interviews?
I don't have a filter, Tom, and I wouldn't want to hire people that expected me to have a filter because then they'd be severely disappointed later. So I would.
Don't you think Sean knew the answer to that question before answering it or before asking it?
I think he did. But I think, I mean, that's where like you need a guy gave me this feedback when I first started doing my radio show and my podcast, because I was trying to like find my voice and figure out what's my shtick, right?
Right.
And to what she just said, like I'm engaging, like I want to be in your face, I want to be loud and obnoxious and funny. And his advice was be yourself with the microphone turned all the way up. You're definitely gonna like totally push away some people who are like, nope, not my jam. And that's fine, especially if you're hiring them, because you need to be their jam. You are the jam and they are the peanut butter, and that needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's going to suck. So it's fine if you're fully on yourself and you're attracting people that like that, because they're going to stick around, and you need people to stick around because you need them to go out and do an awesome job for you.
So
Sean, are you doing a demo at 6:00 at night? Jeez,
you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Let's go get him, man.
Guy's working his butt off out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, bookkeeping numbers, huh?
Yeah, we're approaching the top of the hour here. So in the few minutes that we have left, let's at least do a quick flyby on that. Tell us about the bookkeeping side of the business.
Man, so I mean, I'm a broken record about finance stuff, but even this recruiting stuff, it's all still a math problem, right? And I talked about it earlier about how the number one thing I see with recruiting is people don't invest enough in it. And from a financial perspective, it's the biggest sale we make. It's like the number, especially in maid service, our business is literally only as good as our worst cleaner. That's what we're sending out there every day. So when we look at our financials, there's two different things that happen. The first thing that happens is your true expenses. We call it cost of goods sold. You go out and clean something, and it costs you X, pretty much your labor. Maybe you add supplies in there because you usually need some supplies to clean something. Everything else in your financials is an investment. Your recruiting is an investment. It has to generate a return. Your admin person that answers the phone is an investment. They have to generate a return. Your marketing is an investment. Your rent, that's an investment. The cost to go clean the thing, we try to keep that locked tight. And that's why I said earlier, like I'm a big proponent of commission-based pay. It locks in your cost of goods sold. It makes it so that every time you go out and clean, you make X amount of money. super, super important, because it's hard to make a bunch of investments to grow your business if you don't know how much money you're going to make when you go out to clean.
We're big fans of that as well. Really big
Mm-hmm.
fans. You're creating incentive for people to be productive, and out of all of the things that you need to manage, worrying about your cost of goods sold isn't one of them. If you're paying commission, you know what your cost of goods sold is.
And then it helps you focus on culture, right? If you're not worried about the financial productivity of the person because you're well aligned, right? You win when they win when you win, when you pay commission. Then your focus isn't on the money. I mean, you're still focused on the investments, right? You're still focused on their productivity, but they are too, because they make more when they're more productive. But then you get to focus on culture. And especially in maid service, we are an army of people. That is our business model. We're a friggin' army of people. And so the better your culture is, the better your business is.
So
straight up.
You've got several things that you're doing here. You're helping with the recruiting, you're helping with bookkeeping. In 90 seconds, give us a thumbnail of the services you offer, and if anybody in our audience could use help in those areas, how they can contact you.
So there's 3 things that I'm involved with that can be helpful to a home service company. I'm a bookkeeping nerd. So if you need help getting your QuickBooks dialed in so that you can make these decisions, that's like.
Can I add something to that,
Yeah.
if I may, Dan? And if I'm off base on this, straighten me out. We all have somebody doing our taxes. I hope it's a CPA, and that is not business accounting. They're basically wanting to make sure that you're giving the IRS what you owe them. You're doing something that looks like business accounting. You're helping companies actually be more profitable rather than paying their taxes. Am I right on that?
Exactly. And bookkeeping still is like helpful to pay your taxes, but that's not the point of doing bookkeeping. The point of doing bookkeeping is so that your cost of goods sold is dialed in, so that if your marketing's working or not. So if if your recruiting's working or not. It's a financial.
There's a lot of us out there running home service businesses, though, that all we have are numbers that our CPA is giving us. And we think that we have what we need. And really what we have is what we need to pay the IRS.
That would be like playing a football game and not knowing the score of the game until the game's over.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have business, you do business accounting from, bookkeeping from a business accounting standpoint. You help companies be more profitable.
Nailed it. You nailed it, Tom.
So what are the other legs on this business stool that you're offering?
So these are separate entities, by the way. We carved them up separately, so they're their own little animals. The second thing, and obviously what we talked a whole bunch about today, was the recruiting side of it. Hire, Lead, Chill is designed to help you get and keep more employees, and there's a reason why it's hire, lead, and then chill, and it's not just hire, right? Because you can hire all you want, but if you can't keep them because your culture sucks or your leadership sucks, that's not going to go well for you or for them, which is why I talked a lot about the group interview. You got to find a way to be the sexiest business owner out there so they want to come work for you, and you got to keep them, right? You have to build a great culture to keep them so you can, grow a cool business. So Hire, Lead, Chill is all about that, helping you find great people and helping you keep great people. And then the third business is Click, Call, Sell. That's with Michael Gregory. He's the marketing partner in Hire, Lead, Chill. And so it's websites, it's Google ads, starting to do some Facebook ad management stuff. And so that's the other side of that vehicle, right? If you're putting all your money into recruiting, but you're not getting more customers, you're going to have a shitty business. If you're putting all your money into marketing, but you're not getting more employees, you're going to have a problem as well. So I think Click, Call, Sell, and Hire, Lead, Chill, there's a reason why their names sound really similar. They have the same cadence. They can drive that car forward for you and make sure that you grow a sweet business.
Okay, so the contact, we dropped that in chat earlier. It is your Calendly link at the moment. Is that right, Dan?
Yep, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me there's like a 15-minute grab time with me whenever you want it.
Okay, so we just dropped that in chat again. So if you want to talk to Dan, schedule some time in Calendly. And when you get your website up and want to come back and share a little bit more about what you're doing, I like it because it's kind of like one-stop shopping for home service businesses, and it's a heck of an idea.
I love it. It's the fun stuff. It's the fun stuff. Like bookkeeping doesn't get any more fun than that.
No, it's Life's a party. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us today. It's been too long. We're gonna have to do this again. We
I
can't.
mean, we did have it on the schedule a couple times, and like I think I had like 2 different conflicts, and Sarah kept being like, "Come on, Dan, come on, Dan." So I'm glad I was able to appease her once and for all, and actually stick to a time that I committed to. So
It's cool to see Sam on here. Go check out Liz. I think she's out in Phoenix this week. That's my understanding. Sam's in Phoenix as well. Christy, thanks. Thanks everybody for joining us. Dan, thanks for your help, man. You're awesome. Good luck in the new venture, okay?
heck yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks everybody. Hit me up. See ya.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.